Hi BookTube, it's Amy. I was tagged by the channel You Could Be Reading More to do the Reading Tics Tag, which I believe was originally created by Towle Reads, a channel I guess I'm not familiar with. But this is a series of 9 questions plus the 10th to tag other people, asking questions about your reading habits or reading tics. So the first question asks, do you read at a specific time of day? Not really. I read at all times of day. It depends on when I have time to read. Sometimes I'll read in the morning. Sometimes I'll read over my lunch break at work. Sometimes I'll spend the whole day reading if it's a weekend or I'm on holiday. I don't reserve reading to a particular time of day. Do you prefer to read in your work/everyday clothes, or are you partial to reading in PJs or comfy clothes? If I'm at home, I'm probably going to be in comfy clothes, but I don't really care too much what I'm wearing when I'm reading. If I'm reading out in public, on a train, at work, then of course I'm just wearing whatever my presentable public clothes are, and I will not be, in loungewear at the office or something having my lunch. But I don't have, a specific outfit that I run and put on before I dare to pick up a book. Oftentimes I'll just, come home from work and pick up a book and read in whatever I happen to have been wearing that day. It's not a situation where I must put on, yoga pants or sweatpants before I sit down and read. Today, for instance, I was reading in the dress pants that I wore to work. Question 3. What is your favorite reading spot? Couch, chair, bed, outdoors, somewhere else? I do have a pink armchair in the corner of my bedroom here that's just out of sight at the other end of the bookshelves, just past those Samuel Pepys. And I'll often read in that pink reading chair, or else I'll read on the green velvet sofa in the living room. I tend not to read in bed, just because it's healthier not to do other things in bed. They say that you'll fall asleep easier if you don't spend a lot of time, reading or watching TV or scrolling on your phone in bed. Bed is really for sleeping, not for reading. Question 4. Do you snack while reading, or is this a no-go? I don't typically snack. One, because there is always the danger of getting food or crumbs in your book. I will eat my lunch while I'm reading, but that's mainly because, there's only so much time in a lunch break, and I do want to get some reading in, but I am kind of very careful, and it's more a matter of multitasking than, I need a little snack before I dare pick up a book. For the most part, when I'm just reading here in my apartment, I don't reach for a snack first. If I'm hungry, you eat and then you read, or you read and then you eat. The only thing I'll do is I'll often make a cup of tea before I sit down in my reading chair just to have beside me. As I did before I started to film this video, I made a cup of hibiscus tea that's just off to the side here. Number 5. Do you have, or have you ever peeked at the end of a book, or do you avoid spoilers at all costs? I have to say I peek frequently. I will often, as I'm reading through a book, go through and find the chapter break, and I'll have my finger literally in there so I can visually see and feel, how many pages I have to go until the next chapter. Not because I'm in a hurry to get there, but I just like knowing how things are paced out in the book. And depending on what I'm reading, I will go to the end just to see, how many pages are in this book, how are the chapters spaced out. In the case of fiction, I won't usually look at the end, but if it's a nonfiction book, I will often kind of flip through and see what different subject matter I'm going to be having the opportunity to read about. I think in the case of fiction, the only time I would ever look at the end of the book, look at spoilers, so to speak, would be if I'm not really enjoying the book and I sort of want to know how it ends, or if it's worth continuing to work through it for that ending, which doesn't happen very often. But there have been a few occasions where I've kind of flipped to the end to see where it's going and help myself decide if I want to continue on reading that book. So the next question, number 6, do you prefer first person or third person narrative, or do you care? I have to say I don't care too much. For the most part, I do read a lot of nonfiction. Nonfiction tends to be in, at least in the personal essay style and memoir style, it tends to be in that first person narrative. For instance, reading Diary of Samuel Pepys, first person. Reading the essays of A. Edward Newton, first person. Of course, other works like Gibbon's Decline and Fall, obviously in third person. When it comes to novels, I think I mostly tend to read third person, but that's just because of the era of the literature that I tend to choose from. A lot of older literature does tend to be in third person as opposed to first person, but it's not, a prejudice against first person that leads me to choose those books. It just happens to be, coincidental, and I don't mind too much whether it's first person or third person. And the next question, question 7, do you read dedications, author's notes, acknowledgements, or do you skip those? I always read all the notes in the front of the book, all the notes in the back of the book, especially with some of the things that I read. That preface, that introduction is really going to tell me what to expect in what I'm about to read, and it may give me some historical context. And I've got to reach over here because the Chromebook with the questions was about to go to sleep there. But I do read those dedications and author notes a lot of the time in the sorts of works that I read. That's really part of the work. It's not extra, it's part. It may as well be called the first chapter in some cases, because without reading that introduction or that preface, you're going to be missing a lot of vital information that will help you understand and enjoy the work. Number 8, do you have a favorite reading beverage? I think I've already said this, tea. I enjoy a glass of wine now and then. I enjoy a glass of beer, but for the most part, tea is my staple. Coffee, if it's first thing in the morning, I'm a coffee drinker, but it's usually 1 or 2 cups of coffee between the hours of 6 and maybe 9 a.m. And after that, I don't want anything to do with coffee for the most part. Unless I'm somewhere with a really, really, gourmet, excellent cup of coffee. But for the most part, my stomach has turned away from coffee. My taste buds have turned away. And I turn to tea instead. Black tea, green tea, herbal teas. I am a fan of all sorts of teas. The next question here, number 9. How do you decide what to read next? TBR, mood, goals, random choice. What I read depends entirely upon my mood and the random choice. I have things that I have bookmarks in. I have things that, I impulsively purchase and put on my shelves. But what I'm picking up in a single day is going to depend entirely upon my whim. There is no, list. There is no TBR shelf. There is no set out reading plan here. My reading is, as they say, dulcitory. I am kind of all over the place, not very, practiced or academic or disciplined. I read what I like when I like, and it's really, random choice or a whim as to what I pick up each day. And then the final question here, question 10, is to tag some people, but I'm sure this tag has already made the rounds on BookTube. But as per usual, if you are watching this video and you have not done the tag and you would like to do it, then consider yourself tagged by me. And I think this is the first tag I've done in quite a while, probably a year or two. And it was nice to do this. I did like the questions in this tag. But I'll end it here, and I hope everyone is having a lovely day.